If you don't own Bitcoin right now, you're missing out. It's going to 100, 200,000, even $2 million. It's easy to get it right now. I'm going to show you how, and then we're going to get into some analysis. What's up, everybody? Chris over here. I am the proprietor, head trader, and the founder of Pollinate Trading. We are a bunch of traders who pretty much prop traders who focus on futures, currencies, Forex, equities, pretty much any market in the world that's tradable. We focus on trading that in a very systematic and organized way. We're a bunch of traders. We help each other out. We build systems, we build strategies, and we bounce ideas off of each other. You can join us at pollinatetrading.com/lab and see what it's all about. Without further ado, let's get right into the Bitcoins. I'm going to talk about where we've been a little bit and where we're going. But the first idea I want to get into your mind as we're trading at 15,217 right now, I want you to understand, if this is something that's kept you on the sidelines from getting into Bitcoin, the price of a single Bitcoin being so high, you don't have to own a single Bitcoin. You can own $3,000 of a Bitcoin. You can literally choose the amount, just like if you were to go and exchange your dollars for pesos or dollars for euros, you can exchange the exact amount. So when they say a Bitcoin is worth 15,217, that doesn't mean you have to come up with $15,217 plus a couple dollar transaction fee to make happen. You just need to buy. And that's one hurdle that a lot of people have had. And also there's a lot of traders in this game, a lot of people in the finance game who access Bitcoin through the futures market. Fine if you're trading it, but if you're doing that, you have a premium for the front months, right? And you get charged a little extra for the long months. And then so you have margin that you're paying, and then you also have expiration. So you're constantly rolling it up. Now, if you get lucky and speculatively, this thing rips from 15,000 to 50,000 or whatever, because of the fact that you use margin, you're going to have a massive return. But when we're talking about the idea of a single Bitcoin going to a multi-million-dollar level, you know, that's a lot. Now, no kidding, Chris. So let's talk about ways to get into Bitcoin first of all. And what I want to do is I'm going to like build the frame of why Bitcoin now has the ability to go so much higher. And I'm not going to be talking about more obscure things. I'm going to talk about things that just make a lot of sense. So the first thing that comes to mind is Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy. He had about $1.1 billion in cash, and he discovered that, well, he kind of thought through it and realized, I don't have a good place to invest this. My options are Apple stock, US Treasury bonds, any bond around the world, gold, or Bitcoin, and just sitting in cash, right? He realized that sitting in cash with that $1.1 billion is going to be worth $500 million in a couple of 20 years or so of buying power. So cash was out of the thing. Buying Apple at a $1 trillion+ valuation was kind of expensive, but it was on the table because, just that's the way the market, the power principles work, that the money's going to go to the leader. So, a portfolio of FANG stocks is a good option. Gold was on the table, but the storage and transportation and all those other things made it less viable. And also the ability to get in and out of it was less viable. And he came down to Bitcoin as being the main choice. Now, this is a publicly traded company, and about half of their balance sheet, now half, because he bought it around 9,800, we're in the 9,000s. We're currently at 15. So he's already up something like 30%. So if he put in, if he bought 100 million, he has 130 million. If he bought around 500 million, so he's got about $650 million worth of Bitcoin right now. And that's only been a couple of months. On average, Bitcoin accrues value or appreciates in value 35% per year. Now, not on each year, but year over year. Okay, so this is interesting. Square, the public company Square, came in and they bought as well. They got about $50 million in Bitcoin, and they have possibly not business reasons, but operational reasons, because Square, you can purchase Bitcoin in Square. So maybe they had a reason to provide, they're going to create their own exchange or do their own currency, and they needed to have something to back it up. Who knows what that one is, but the trend is there. We're starting to see public companies who are under a lot more scrutiny than my company, your company, any other company. You can literally take your bank account and go buy it, and your shareholders, if you have any, I don't, are not going to say anything. I'm my only shareholder, and if I did it, that's fine. There's a lot of nice ways to go about it, or reasons that people and companies are bringing their cap table, their treasury, their cash on hand, and storing it in Bitcoin. The ability to get it whenever you want, rather quickly, for a couple bucks in any place in the world, like that. You don't need the ATM, you just need an internet connection, and you can make that happen. You don't even need an internet connection if you got cold storage. Okay, all that's cool, all that's fancy. You and I are not I'm not managing $1 billion surplus. I don't know about you, congratulations if you are. Hit me up, let's grab lunch on you. And so for the average person who's a trader, which is the majority of people that I interact with here, are traders. But even if you're not a trader, getting access to Bitcoin is somewhat of a challenge. A lot of people have told me. I got into Bitcoin or crypto a number of years ago. So I've grown with, I started out with the highly complex methodology of getting and owning crypto, transferring crypto, paying for things currently at just astronomical prices. But at the time I was like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll pay you $30 in crypto. And now that's probably $10,000, but whatever. Not sad. Getting access to crypto now with companies like Coinbase, Kraken, and most importantly, and the one I really want to talk about today is Blockfi. Blockfi, who sponsoring this video, not really. Blockfi, hit me up, Blockfi. Blockfi is who I store all the corporate crypto that I have for the business. We use Blockfi. And the reason behind that is because Blockfi pays me about 6 to 8% interest on my Bitcoin. So think about this. If I had $100,000 and I put it in my bank account as a savings account, what would you expect it to do? Any interest? How much interest would you expect in a year? I mean, zero, if any, maybe a 0.5% at best. And we all know, well, you may not know, but your buying power of $100,000 in 6 months or in a year is going to be less. If you look at inflation, it's just 2% less per year. That compounds, of course. But if I was to give you $1 million today, and I said, you can make one trade decision with this $1 million, you choose. You can throw it in a bank account. You have 100% access to it, the results, whatever it ends up being in 10 years, but you can't touch it for 10 years. You make one move today. And the distribution of a portfolio is also an option. But if you can do anything with that money, one move, and then you harvest the results in 10 years. And your options are going into equity markets. You can buy metals, you can buy Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, or and real estate, automobiles, whatever, collectibles, or just leave it in dollars. These are your options. And you can choose any mix of all of those that you want. But one thing I know, regardless of every other asset class that you chose to invest in, put your money 100% in Bitcoin, 100% in gold, 100% in the NASDAQ, or 20% in each, whatever it is. But whatever you put into dollars, let's say you had $1 million today and you just put it into cash, you could buy $1 million home today. In 10 years, how much home would you be able to buy? That home that's $1 million today, if you bought it today, what do you think the value of it would be in 10 years? Likely higher, right? Very unlikely that you're going to be able to buy that same home in 10 years for less than $1 million. It's very likely that it'll be 1.5 million or 1.25 million or something, one in 10 million. So that $1 million you feel safe in a savings account can't buy what you wanted to buy 10 years ago. Okay, now let's look at the opportunity cost of putting that money in the bank as opposed to getting out and buying something that appreciates in value, like a real estate, like gold, like stocks, like crypto, like Bitcoin, for example. Bitcoin's up 35% year over year. That means it's going to $1 million. Okay, just believe me on that. So if you bought $1 million worth of Bitcoin, you're looking at, what is that? 15 million, 20 million by then, just one move. Let's go to equities, about 9%, 7 to 9% growth year over year. So as that compounds, you're going to double that money in 7 years, right? So the 72, rule of 72, you're probably going to have somewhere around $2 million if you just put it in equities in the next year or in that first move. Well, the one thing that you will not have is you will not have $1 million. So that $2 million you put in the, or that million that turns into 2 million in the market in 10 years, that house that you wanted to buy, you can probably buy still and have cash left over. You probably are going to outperform equities than you are real estate, but who knows? Maybe it goes hotter. So maybe it's going to cost you $2 million to buy that same house. Now, the thing that won't work is putting it in cash. So that's one of the big reasons why Bitcoin is kind of another reason that people are really flocking to it. And then I got to the point of Blockfi is if I said, hey, you can go ahead and put your cash into Bitcoin and have the value of interest to be paid to you on top of it. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. $3,000, would be 1/5 of a Bitcoin right now. You'll still have 1/5 of a Bitcoin, whether it's $1 million Bitcoin or it's $1,000 Bitcoin, you still have one Bitcoin. So the value of it doesn't go away and you'll still be making interest on it through Blockfi. Now, the thing that makes Bitcoin and crypto so much more interesting, and this has been a problem in the past, is you had to sell your Bitcoin to be able to do something with it. Unless you were a high net worth individual, unless you were wealthy and you had people who were willing to give you special loans on your assets. Most people don't have the ability to say, okay, well, I've got $3,000 in a savings account. Can I go ahead and I'm making 6%. Can I go ahead and borrow that and use it and then just write myself a little loan? You can do that with your 401k. You can do it with a home equity line of credit. You can do it a number of ways. But what hasn't been accessible for the last, for a long time, and one of the biggest arguments is being able to do that with your crypto. Now, I could go to Blockfi and I could put $100,000 in there, and that thing turns to $1 million. I'm like, okay, great. I want to go buy a Lambo. I want to go buy, put down a down payment on a house. I want to go do this with the money. With Blockfi, you just basically say, hey, I would like to borrow I would like to borrow, $500,000 on my account. They're like, sure, you've got the collateral in there. Here you go. It's, whatever a month. You got it. So you just basically, you're your own loan officer. You basically have your own money. You're your own bank. You can do your own transactions. You can invest in other cryptos. You can give yourself loans on your own treasury. This is a big step forward in what can be done with crypto. And oh, by the way, it's actually very easy, which has been one of the biggest problems with crypto. You basically sign up for the account, you get approved, you put the money in, it arrives there same day, and then you're just right in it. That's one of the best reasons why getting into crypto right now, getting into things like Blockfi, going to Coinbase, you can get these as well. There's a lot of ways you can run businesses this way. You can borrow, put a bunch of money in there and you can borrow for payroll as needed and then pay it back. Let's say you were running an online business and you wanted to run ads or something. You can borrow against your treasury there and then it's spitting out ads. If if it costs you $5 to get a customer and you're making $7 to $10 on the customer, then you're able to pay that back, no problem. And that's just free stuff coming in. So interesting business. Now, the reason why I bring up all that is because the big story in Bitcoin was just wait till Wall Street shows up, and they're showing up. Okay. So they're different breed than, banks, I should say, and those big institutions are a different breed than you and I. We can ride those waves, we can jump in on that and we can ride on their coattails. But what's most important is what happened in 2017 with the crypto run when it went from about 1,000 to 20,000 in that same year. What made that so interesting was it was retail people who knew technology enough to get in there. And I spent a lot of time, I was in the Bay Area for a lot of that. And there was a lot of technologists who really got into the thing. And it was easier for a lot of people in the technology space because we're native to these environments, right? We understand command line and all those other things. We can audit code. Most people can't do that. So most of the people that were getting in through Coinbase and those other services in 2017, we're just kind of riding the wave, right? Not to say that I'm any better because I could somewhat audit the code or anything like that. That's irrelevant. But the point being is there's a lot of people who that made them comfortable to do it. And that created that big wave. And that brought a lot of the retail, other people who, my father-in-law, like people like that who are just like, I want in. And I said, sure, figure out how to get your own wallet, figure out how to do it. And, I'll give you a thumbs up. That's it. I was not Mr. IT guy for anybody. And the thing about it is people were able to do it. They were able to do it, and that's fine. And that was a couple of years ago. We're already up 100% this year. You don't hear people talking in the frenzied way that they did back in 2017 about crypto. We've doubled in value. We went from about, I think it was about 7,000 at the beginning of the year 2020, and we're at 15. So we're more than 100% up, or we're right at about 100% move. And you're just not getting the frenzy. You're not getting that craziness. You're not getting people who are just running rampant in every direction about it, which means that we have a lot of room to go. And now, if you know that you can use your 401k to buy crypto, there's ways to do it. You can borrow against the capital you have instead of having to sell your Bitcoin to buy a car or to buy a house or whatever. You can leave it in there and it'll make you money. I mean, if you were making 8% a year on $1 million, that's $80,000 a year. You're not even talking about the value of Bitcoin going up and down, right? So if you're pumping in $1,000 a month continually, or you're doing all these other things, you're not the only one. Everybody's starting to do this because there are tools available. So I bring all this up, and I've spent the last 20 minutes trying to get everybody built up on the case. We're going a little longer today. Let's get into price analysis. All right. So I spent a good period of time recently analyzing Bitcoin. I posted video and I've done a bunch of tweets on this. And we had a measured move, which was hit today. This is an hourly chart on Bitcoin using the Bitstamp exchange, which the reason I use the Bitstamp exchange for this analysis is because it goes back to 2011. It's the oldest chart. And we did hit this 15,126 measured move area. And I'll show you how I got to that mark. And we would expect weakness here because this is an hourly chart. Yesterday at this time, at 8 a.m. Where are we at? It is 10 o'clock. So yesterday at 10 o'clock, price was, let's just call it closing price was $14.76. We've moved $1,000 in 24 hours. Yeah, we're going to expect a bit of a pullback. No surprise there. But let's take a look at the real important timeframes to me. Okay. And let's talk about the way measured moves work. The measured move is a move up and down. So the way I look at them is the move from a low to a high to the low. Okay. So this high to this low the high was 19,666 and my low was 31,222. So $16,000 move, which means the way I do that is 16,000 above the high that I'm measuring that measured move is where we go. So what's 16,000 plus about 20,000? That's 36,000. 36,000 is This is my macro measured move at the moment. This is where I think this next, and when I talk bull run, I'm not talking about this is a bull run. We've definitely, the bulls have been running. This is absolutely 100% a bull run here. But what I'm talking about is the way that Bitcoin continually does these measured moves. So they go from basically 0 to 10, from 10 to 100 pretty easily. Price goes 10x fairly easily, and then we get a blow off. So we hit about 100 here, from 10 here back in, let's call it December 2012. It took us slightly more than 3 months to go from $10 to $100 on Bitcoin. And then we had what we had in 2017. We had a blow off top. We had a parabolic rise with a blow off top. That thing went all the way up to 260 before coming back and settling at around this 10,000 area. Now, one thing I want to point out is it went from 260 down to 60, and it bangs around this whole $100 area quite a bit before its next move up, right? So it settles. So what it does, it goes from 10 to 100, and then it settles. And that means that this $100 range is like the main arbiter. This is where the bullish trend kicked off again. Okay, we had that big hammer down, and then we start looking. So the next move we're going to expect is $1,000 move, 10x again. And guess what? It happened. It happened so we go from a high of 101 in July, August, September, October, November. We hit the $1,000 mark, and guess what happens up here? We hit our 1,000 cleanly, and then it goes nuts, right? And there you go. It goes nuts again. So all the way down to 400, get some consolidation, and then now we get our reversal, and 1,000 is starting to look like it might be in, or 10,000 would be in play. But the thing about it is, notice how quickly it does that the first few times and how slowly it takes to get there as we continue to move. So now the consolidation here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, the consolidation at 1,000, or wherever we're going to call this one, we're looking at December currently through September. So 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, 12 months, 13. So now we're starting to see this longer term consolidation. This is what Bitcoin has done in the last couple of years, right? A little bit more consolidation. Now we start to see a bottom in 2015. We're seeing it at around 300. So that, remember, the $1,000 mark is the thing that's in play in each one of these moves. It doesn't mean that it settles there. It's just that that's where it scales, and it blows off after that. And now we start to get this power bottom. So we got our multiple bottoms, 200 holding. And so we're going to see how it does here. It's not going to move very easily because there's a lot of people who bought all of this way up. And what they're thinking is, I just need to give this back. I need to break even. I just need to get out of this thing. And they do. And then the people who are buying here and buying here are starting to see the trend form again. Okay, 500's in play. Okay, 800's in play. And the thing about it is these big round numbers come into play because people, the way they look at these markets is you say, I'm interested in this. I get in at 500. Like, oh, if this thing hits 600 or 700 or 1,000, I'm out. Because the majority of the people that are doing those moves are not complex traders. They don't understand our multiples and all these other things. No judgment. The point being is that's how big round numbers work. People say, at 800, I'm selling and I'm going to go buy me a new car. I'm going to remodel the house. I'm going to take a trip. I'm going to, propose to my significant other. Excellent bottom formation here after a strong bull run. Topping pattern, bullish pattern inside, and we break out of it. So now we would expect a move into So now we're going to expect a move to the 1,000, and then we're going to expect a move from here to 10,000. So we get our 1,000 into, we get up to our 1,000 again. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I saw this, I've seen this story before, I'm selling. And that's why that's why this ended up topping over here. Now, what's going to happen is when we break that, it's going to move. When we break above these highs, this 11.6 area, 1160 area, it's going to rip. It's going to rip and it's going to pull back and it's going to get highly volatile, but it's going to put in a massive move. And there we go. Closed above it, running stops, things getting crazy. And this candle is a sign that bulls are 100% in control. Bulls are in control. This is not a late stage. And there we go. There's not a late stage sell here. This is the opposite of a late stage. This is an early stage. So we went from, we actually went from 200 to 2,800 here before we started to top. And then we hit the 3,000 area and then we started to top. And we took a little break. We hit up to 3,000. Oh, that's right. We hit almost 5,000. All the way up into the 5,000. It gets volatile again because those round numbers, 6,000. And now we quickly, as you see, it took longer for us to hit the 10,000 level, but it happened. Where did we do it? Let's call our break here. We did it in 2013 to 2017. So it took us 4 years to get there. But once we broke above that high here in November 13, when we broke above it, February to November. So 9 months. What took us a couple of months to do back here took us 9 months to 10x, from 1,000 to 10,000. So this took us, let's call it March to November of the same year. So 6 months, let's call it. It took us about 3 years to do it here. Once we did the first time at 1,000, we can call it the second time. The second time we got up to 1,000, we could call 11 months. But it took about 3 years. So then we hit 20,000. And again, once we get to 10,000, that's our target. We blow off and consolidate, right? We blow off, consolidate again. So now it took 3 years from 2014 to 2017 to hit the level, whereas it took us about 6 months. So it's going to take a little bit longer for us to hit the 100,000. And so this is our first measured move. 20,000 down to 3,000, 16, whatever, $17,000 move. 16, let's just call it 37K measured move. Actually, I'll go with that because I'm rounding there. And that makes more sense. 37K measured move from here. The thing about the 37K measured move doesn't matter. That's just a truck stop along the way. That's just a resting point. When we hit 37, people are going to be like, oh, I'm selling. At 20,000, they're going to sell it. 15,000, like we are today, people are selling. They're going to sell all along the way. And that's great because what happens is they sell at 20,000 and then it pulls back and they feel like brilliant people. And then other people are buying at 20,000 thinking that it's going to 40,000. And they're going to find out that they're more right than the people who sold at 20 thinking that they're right, taking profits. Because we're dealing with a scarce resource here. We're not dealing with there's as many Bitcoins as you want in the world. There's only 21 million ever created. And of those 21 million, I would say 2/3 are probably unaccounted for. People were mining millions of Bitcoins in the early days, 100,000 Bitcoins, and lost their computers, lost their keys. There's just so many reasons why we're not actually going to have a whole 21 million Bitcoin in existence. So sell off in December, and now we're into 2020. So we're almost 2 years into it. So what I want to point out is if it took 3 years for this move and it took like 6 or 9 months prior to that, we're not going to hit that 100K mark too much soon. 37K is easily within reach. So it wasn't until we got our bottom here back at the bottom of the COVID period. This is a major bottom pattern. And we bottomed and we started to get long here. And that's where the long move happened. Now, our second measured move that we're looking at was a high of 13,880 down to a low of 9219. So 4,600 measured move price. So 13,880 plus 4,600 equals 18,480. So this is our next measured move up. Actually, let me just do it this way. So our next measured move target would be 18,480. Let's just put right here. So this move down to, we just broke above it this week. So now we're going to expect to get here. What's right here, right? What's right there? 20K, 18,480. That's within spitting distance. We're going to get some volatility. Who knows? We can backfill here and there. I'm sure of it. And it's going to take us probably something like 5 or 6 years from 2018. So 2022, 2023, we could see the 100,000 price target happen, I believe. It could be less. It could happen this year. But the 100K price target, it's almost a given if you use this sort of math. Now, you may feel, and I want to reemphasize this, you may feel like you've missed out on the move here so far. You may feel like, oh, there's no reason, there's nothing left in this market. And hopefully if you've watched this video, you know that if nothing else, we've got $3,500 price target here in the short term. And when that's there, that 20K level is going to be right knocking on the door. What happens at 20K? Well, that's when things start saying, oh no, we're actually back in the bull market. Let's head out of here. And we saw that, right? We saw that here when 1,000 got taken out. It wasn't too far that as soon as this got taken out, as you see, as soon as we got taken out in February of 2017, things started to move. We had a SEC decision on an ETF that kind of like caused some drama, but that didn't matter much at all because at basically within a month of that, let's call it 1,200, let's say, within a month of 1,200, we had doubled. We went from 1,200 to over 2,700 in 1 month. And we didn't stop until we hit 20,000. So when we broke out of that range, when we broke out of that little 1,166 range, within 1, 2, 3 months, we had already doubled. So what does that mean? That 37,000 price target I have, that's just a speed bump along the way. That's just where the breakout's going to head to. And so the measured move here, if we're looking at 11,666 down to a low of 152, so let's call it about 1,000 points. 1,000-point move at 1166 would have been 2,100. You got your measured move. You got your measured move right here, right in this area. Your first measured move. That was just a blip in the map. That's it. It didn't even really register. It took off and ran until we got 20,000. We went from 1,000 to 20,000 in a number of months. Okay, the amount of time it took from us breaking out February to December. So we're talking 11 months. 11 months, potentially, probably more like 15 months after we break this 37K, 40K measured move, 35 to 40K measured move. It's going to take a while to get us to 100,000, but from 100,000, we see 1 million. And from 1 million, who knows? The blow off is 2 million. I always look at the round 100, 10, 100,000 million, 10 million levels as that main area that you're going to be at. So this is what I got, guys. If you want to, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to Blockfi down below. You can sign up with my link, and they'll give you a, I want to say it's a up to $275 trading credit. Let me see what it is real quick. They'll give you, yeah, up to $275 if you use the link to sign up, and then give your link out to people, and you can earn up to $275. So just kind of focus around. All right, that's what I got, guys. That was a long one today. Very, very detailed. Get your Bitcoins, get your cryptos, open up BlockFi, go to pollinatetrading.com/lab to check out what we're doing in the lab. Go to pollinatetrading.com/subscribe if you're not subscribed to my emails. And finally, like and subscribe down below. Give us a comment. Let me know what you think on the analysis. Ask your questions. That's what I'm here for. Love you all. Bye.